Ladies and gentlemen, we're here.
I'm part of the Kliq, isn't everybody?
Yes! 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 I got an idea, yeah. Beat up John Cena!
Give me a hell yeah!
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Too sweet! Here goes the mother! This is where the power lies!
I am the man.
We need if you can survive!
It's showtime, folks!
The following episode is scheduled for one fall, and it is for your listening pleasure. This is In The Kliq.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and sitting right next to me is my brother Tommy. How's it going, Tommy?
Good. How you doing?
And joining us once again virtually is our good brother from Pro Wrestling 101 on Instagram. It's Richard. How's it going, Richard?
Hello, everyone.
Wow, you sound a little bit better today, Richard. You got the microphone working, looks like.
This is how I always sound. Clear, present.
That's good. That's
Clear and present danger.
I was going to say, what was that movie?
Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. The last movie I saw was a movie called Hooper.
Hooper?
Burt Reynolds.
What year was that?
It's been a while.
Do you watch movies?
What?
Do you watch movies at all?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I just saw Jaws 2.
For the first time?
Yeah. Hooper, 1978.
What?
Wow, we're going 40 years too late here, man.
Wow, Richard is stuck in the 70s, it sounds like.
Yeah, a little over.
Man, wait till you hear 80s music. You're going to love it.
I worked at Rock Bar.
You ever heard of this synth pop group, new wave group named the Human League?
Dude, you're gonna love them, Richard.
They're fantastic.
But here we are, everyone, back at it for another episode of In The Kliq. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and all that good stuff. And a lot of stuff to talk about this week, especially what happened tonight. Hell in a Cell 2020 is in the books now, and we're going to, of course, recap the highlights from the show. Not a lot of matches, per se, to break down. I think that was kind of purpose, and we'll get into that. But like we always do, kind of give our initial thoughts about the show, and then we'll break down the card itself. So, Richard, starting off with you. Just kind of your general takeaways from this pay-per-view.
General takeaways is that 3 Hell in a Cell matches is too much when there was only one really good one.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of thinking too, was it was like the build-up was for the last few weeks on Raw and SmackDown, respectively, was just focusing on the Hell in a Cell matches. And so even up until I want to say Friday, it only looked like 4 matches were officially announced. I mean, even before this Monday show, it was only 3. It was the 3 Hell in a Cells: Roman versus Jay, Sasha versus Bailey, Drew versus Randy. And then this past Monday, we officially got the Jeff Hardy Elias match. And then this past Friday was Miz and Otis. And we're like, okay, so it's Sunday morning. It's only 5 matches. Like,
I see. I don't think that's a problem though, because that was classic Attitude Era booking. You know, like it didn't matter what the undercard was as long as you knew you had Austin and Undertaker and The Rock somewhere in there. Like the rest of it was just kind of filler. Oh, they just had this one thing happen on Raw this week, and now they've got a pay-per-view match.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
With that, sometimes you'll get those. It starts here and it's going to bleed into the next pay-per-view, and it's a little more serious.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying with that. So my reaction was, okay, if they only have like 5 matches. Now, a couple things. One, in this pandemic era, over especially the last few months, their pay-per-views have not gone on longer than 3 hours. I've been digging digging that, especially even like WrestleMania. WrestleMania this year, of course, was 2 nights, but it was 3 hours each night, which was great. It was easy to consume and take in. You know, back when fans were in attendance, they were going over 4 hours. And, you know, every month, that's a lot of wrestling to take in. So I've been loving the fact that, like, these pay-per-views have been, you know, under 3 hours max. And therefore, you know, here we are, you know, here on the West Coast, we're able to still wrap up, you know, at a reasonable time and record. And it's still early on our Sunday night. So my thinking was, okay, 5 matches only announced going into Sunday. Maybe that's going to mean they're going to give plenty of time for these Hell in a Cell matches to take place and give them some breathing room and tell a long story in the ring, which we did get
which we got, unfortunately.
Yes, and we'll go into that more. But yeah, no. So I was like, okay, I kind of digging, you know, not a lot of matches, and yeah, Richard, you brought up a good point. Like in the Attitude Era, there were a lot of times things would happen during Sunday Night Heat. And they're like, all right, let's just take it into the match at the start of the pay-per-view next hour. So we got a little bit of that as well during the kickoff show. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So I think literally it was, or actually real quick, Tommy, how about you? Any initial takeaways from the show you thought?
It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I really appreciate how all 3 cell matches had a different story and kind of their own style.
Okay.
And I felt it really made the matches feel fresh.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. And that's something we'll dig into with each Hell in a Cell match as we break down the card. So literally was, I think, around lunchtime here for us or early afternoon, they announced the 24/7 match between R-Truth and Drew Gulak, you know, in a traditional match in the ring. I don't know, Richard, did you catch any of this? I caught literally like the last couple minutes of it.
I did. It was super entertaining.
Really? Oh, wow. Look at this. Richard got sound effects now.
Nice. We got Fred Norris over here.
So Richard, I literally like caught like the last couple minutes. I know it wasn't a super long match. It was only about 5.5 minutes long, but R-Truth did get the victory here. So good for him maintaining his title reign, his current title reign. I mean, honestly, that title is just built for him now at this point.
It is.
But but you said it was entertaining. What stood out for you?
You should go back and watch the beginning of that match because he was saying goodbye to little Jimmy at the very beginning, and Drew Gulak did this whole thing where he wanted to talk to little Jimmy himself, and R-Truth looked shocked and appalled, and then he sat little Jimmy down on his knee and then kicked him off his knee and punted him, and R-Truth speared him like Goldberg and just started wailing on Drew. So it started out pretty entertaining.
Okay, I have to go back and check that out. I was actually I was finishing up NXT during the kickoff show, so hence why by the time I got done with it, I turned it on. I was like, "Oh crap, it's 3:45. I better catch the tail end of the kickoff show." So good for R-Truth. He went running out, and I was talking to Jeff Jarrett a little bit. It was cool seeing Jeff Jarrett there in attendance.
Always cool to see Double J.
Actually, on a quick little side note, I don't know if you guys saw, there were some people on Twitter who was like, oh my God, Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler both on the kickoff show. This is going to be awesome. And someone on Twitter, I saw, it was just random, like, I wish both of them would explain how to throw a good punch in wrestling.
Yes.
I don't know.
You got to work in Memphis.
That's what's
in Memphis. Kurt Angle worked in Memphis.
Yep. Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to say.
The Rock?
Yeah, so that's what happened was in this thread started and was like, they both come from the Memphis territory, and that's like one of the best territories to learn how to throw a punch, apparently. So
the punch they both throw is the Jackie Fargo punch.
Okay.
So like they both knew and worked with Jackie Fargo and emulated that punch. Like The Rock emulated Scott Hall's punch.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Scott Hall's punches. I mean, I remember he was on, Stone Cold's podcast, and they broke it down how to throw a good punch. And it was fascinating to me. I always love Scott Hall's style. So anyway, when I saw that tweet, I was like, oh, this is right up Tommy and Richard's alley as far as just throwing a good punch. And, that's kind of like a lost art in today's pro wrestling world. So, but anyway, so the kickoff show, it wrapped up. And then they announced at the end was, the Roman Reigns Jey Uso match was going to start the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which I was kind of shocked because I kind of had a feeling that might main event or be the last one of the night. I was kind of taken back that was going to open up the show, but I kind of maybe figured, listen, there's a lot going on Sundays now this time of the year between you got the World Series going on. You got NFL football happening all day. I think even NASCAR is doing stuff. So I think they probably figured, let's get Roman Reigns out there early in the day. And that would hopefully convinces people to kind of tune in and get them away from watching all that other stuff before it takes place and kind of hooks them in for the rest of the show. But so there it was, Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against his cousin Jey Uso inside Hell in a Cell. And it was also an I Quit match. So technically 2 stipulations. And then, Richard, we'll go jump right into it. We were kind of joking. It kind of led also to a 3rd stipulation in some ways. So yeah, this match almost went full 30 minutes. We saw Roman Reigns eventually get the victory here. But before we kind of jump into the full match out of it. So just Richard, your thoughts on this opening match for the pay-per-view.
My critique of it is pretty much the exact same as the main event, where there's too much storytelling. There's storytelling done well, and then there's we're not going to do anything for large amounts of time to develop this, and it's that's not what's needed. You guys have plenty of time because you don't need to get it all done on one show.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially with Drew and Randy.
Yeah.
They've been doing this, so I don't know why you need those pauses between moves. It should be more action packed. It's a pay-per-view. It's not Raw. If both of those matches happened on TV, they would have had a better pace. So I guess my issue with them both was the pace, because it really took the energy out of me.
Yeah, it was definitely a very slow telling match for this opener here, as far as Roman.
And it would have been fine had they picked it up for the last quarter of the match, but that didn't happen.
Exactly. It was slow the whole time. And yeah, you would think most of the time, a slow start, it's going to end on a very upbeat, fast, action-packed finale, which is fine. As far as the build-up, like a roller coaster, slow build, and then boom, this big finish. We didn't necessarily get that. And when I meant by also almost a 3rd stipulation was, they brought out a strap and that they were using against each other, almost like we've seen in the past in other strap matches. And they were using that to kind of choke each other out a little bit. So I saw online, a lot of people were saying wow, it's a Hell in a Cell match with I Quit stipulation, and also now you got a strap match involved, so it's 3 stipulations in one. It's almost a little bit too much, and I think this match easily could have been done just fine outside of just a Hell in a Cell. It didn't need it.
The match is going to look really good when someone on YouTube cuts it up and splices it and shows you it's only a 10-minute match. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This match, like you said, was almost 30 minutes. I think you easily could have cut off 10 minutes and told the same story, and it would have came off a lot more better, more effective, as far as, Roman was kind of being slow and attack. You would attack and then back off, and it was almost pacing, waiting for his next.
He was very methodical.
Yeah, opportunity to strike.
Here's the other thing with that, though. To your point, is the plan to make him, Jay, a solo act after this? Because if he's just going to go back into a tag team, then what was the point in having him in a match that long?
Well, okay.
And we haven't seen anything that would point that the Usos are over, or he's going to go off and be a solo on his own. So yeah. I'm not quite sure why they needed the match to be that long.
So, okay, one thing. So as we saw on SmackDown this week, so at the end of the show, Roman announced kind of the stipulation or the consequence for the matchup. So he said, listen, if I lose, that's fine. You become Universal Champion. You become the tribal chief, the head of the table, all that stuff. I can live with that. But in return, if you lose, you need to, pretty much bow to him and agree to be his servant and work for him. And if you don't, you're out of the family. You're kicked out. They didn't really address that too much on this pay-per-view. And I know on Talking Smack, I think Paul Heyman came out and they were trying to clear it up a little bit more. It looks like, I don't know if this is something they're going to address more on next week's episode of SmackDown.
I think it was more along the lines of shaming him, opposed to like, hey, you're not really in this family, because there's no way to really do such a thing. So
yeah. Well,
I think it's more like you're an embarrassment to the family that you thought that you could take on the tribal chief.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking hopefully might happen is maybe on SmackDown as a follow-up, maybe Roman tells Jay and Jimmy to both come out and pretty much, bow to me or whatever, just more or less, officially say, I'm the tribal chief, I'm the head of the family, and you guys work for me now. So then it's more or less he grows a faction now with his cousins, but they're almost reluctant to be a part of it. And I'm just
the only way that happens is if they respect him. And I don't think that's quite there yet. I don't know if it was you or we were in a text chain during the show.
Yeah.
You or Kenny or Tommy, maybe. I don't remember who said it, but a handicap match of sorts. Maybe they go that route, and they wind up respecting Roman after that and decide that they're going to stick with him. Because right now it's still kind of heated between all sides.
Yeah, I mean that's something. I said in the text was, okay, this was the second match, so maybe the blow off is the fact that Jimmy got involved again in this match, and the finish was we saw Jimmy come out, cover his brother. Jay is knocked out once again, and it was almost a copy and paste of the Clash of Champions match. So Roman, was ready to beat up or like take the chair to Jay's head. Jimmy comes running out, protects his brother, says, "Don't do that, man. What's wrong with you?" And they have like that moment where they're crying and Roman's crying and says, "Oh no, what's wrong with me?" Like, it's almost like at the end of like an action movie or superhero movie where the bad guy is like, "I don't know why I turned bad," and you're trying to turn him back. And then Jimmy, he's like, we could fix this. We can work this out. And all of a sudden Roman just turned and, snapped out of it, stopped crying. It was a total act and started putting Jimmy in a submission hold. And he's holding him tight and won't let go. And so Jimmy's then shaking Jay to wake him up. And Jay says, I quit as a way to save his brother. So, once again, Jimmy getting involved and, ultimately kind of causing Jay the match. So that's what I'm thinking is, okay, maybe it's the third match. The finale is maybe, I wouldn't be surprised it'd be a handicap match. Maybe Roman's like, listen, I could prove I could beat the both of you at the same time. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe at the next pay-per-view or something, it can easily be a handicap. And then, if the Usos lose, then they officially become like part of his stable or something. And listen, I know for the longest time, remember years ago when the Usos were heels, a lot of people wanted Roman to work with them and be like a badass 3-man faction. So maybe we finally eventually get that. I mean, it's a long road to get there, but it might be a little reluctant on the Usos' part to join Roman now because they don't like his behavior. But I think eventually that could be kind of a badass faction, the three of them, like a 3-man Samoan badass group. And maybe Roman can convince them down the road. Maybe he helps them win the tag titles down the road. And that's how they kind of officially agree to work with him. I don't know. Richard, I'd share your thoughts of eventually them becoming a faction together.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of that family line that's not even in WWE, so they can always add and subtract or whatever they want to do with it. So I say go for it because it's wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised entirely if this is not the only time we see Afa and Sika either. So maybe for a couple months, a week or whatever, we'll see them a little bit more. Maybe they're the ones that show up on SmackDown and convince them that they need to respect him.
See, that's the thing. And that's the biggest takeaway was, so at the very end of the match, once Roman left the ring, walking up the ramp, all of a sudden, Tommy, we see
Afa and Sika,
the original Wild Samoans, come out, and they pretty much lay Roman with one of the lays, puts around his neck, and very symbolically, I get representing like would you say, Richard, like passing the torch or officially crowning him as the tribal chief?
both.
Yeah. So I thought that was a very powerful moment. I know all of us, we popped. Tommy and I were watching together and we were like, oh my God, that's awesome. And then the text messages we all had going, like everyone, all of us were all super excited. So even though it was a very long, dragged out match, seeing them at the very end kind of made up for it. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember you texting everyone saying, who are these old guys? So
No, I did not.
I thought it was pretty disrespectful.
Richard.
Tommy, you remember that?
Oh. I don't know what to say.
He's not going to turn. Tommy's my Jimmy. I'm Jay. Tommy's Jimmy. We're not going to turn on each other, Richard.
But
Jimmy turns on me all the time.
But if you want to continue seeing like the Wild Samoans, like, you know, being there in the corner for Roman Reigns, do you think they'll be like what Jose Lothario was to Shawn Michaels?
No, because he's already got Heyman. I think they're just kind of going to be around to make sure the family's straight with him.
All right.
It's almost like they're like the Godfathers at this point to kind of
exactly
remind everyone's like, hey, this is the way things are now, the order, you got to follow it. So no, I think having them, because they are literally the very top of the family, right, Richard? I mean, you sent that photo, the family tree earlier. So I mean, they're like the top of the food chain.
They're the elder statesmen now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So to me, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I think what they did, their actions at this pay-per-view really symbolizes like, listen, Roman is a man now. He's the tribal chief. We're passing the torch officially in front of everyone's eyes. So that's cool. And, that's cool. Roman, hugging his dad out there. That's one of his dad. I mean, that is his dad, I should say, and his uncle. So it was just cool seeing that embrace. And I know we were all just kind of fantasy booking between all of us. I mean, I know the rumor is like they want The Rock to come back for WrestleMania next year, take on Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of cool. Maybe like it could be a situation where it's like Roman's getting so big, his ego, that he's the head of the family, and The Rock can be like, I'm the head of the family.
Yeah.
I do feel, and I think people should take this into account when they hear that. I feel like that is going to happen just for the sake of where the storyline's been going. And, but at the same time, if there's anything involving The Rock, do you think any of us actually know about it? Like he's one of those people like The Undertaker or Jericho that just show up or they make a big announcement. Like I don't think it's going to get leaked that The Rock and Roman is going to happen. Like that's educated speculation.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors. Obviously, The Rock is so big now. Like it depends on his schedule, and obviously a lot of things are up in the air going into 2021 with this whole pandemic, but also what's his schedule in 2021 as far as filming stuff, and is he going to be available in late March and early April, or actually WrestleMania is end of March this year. But so yeah, what's his schedule in March to even set up a storyline? I mean, that's a whole other issue. So I'm sure, and there's the insurance stuff, like with the movie studios using The Rock to wrestle because they don't want to get hurt. So there's a lot of factors involved. But nonetheless, I'm sure in Vince McMahon's mind, in a perfect world, he would want Roman versus The Rock at WrestleMania. If that, let's just say if that does happen, how cool would it be to get all the Samoans in that family tree to come out? I don't know if maybe like a lumberjack match style. They all like stand outside the ring.
Are we going to have a hologram of Chief Peter Maivia?
I don't know. Something. I mean, like, dude, there's a lot of ways. Like maybe Roman gets so big, like his ego, and like the rest of the family has to come out and confront him. They all get a turn to put him in his place. I don't know. There's so many ways.
Here's a crazy idea for you.
Okay.
Just kind of popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say in April we're still in this, and fans can't be there, right?
Yeah.
Have the match in Hawaii, and have everyone circle the ring with fire, like torches and everything, and they're all wearing that traditional Samoan garb, and that's the audience for that match. Like do a theatrical match that way.
Cinematic match in Hawaii. That'd be badass.
Oh, very similar to Antonio Inoki versus Masa Saito. And what was that match? they had it on
an island death match.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities we can go with that. So, yeah, I think it'd be cool. And then, like, the winner becomes the official head of the family, like Rock versus Roman. But the Rock can be like the savior, becoming to confront Roman. It's like, dude, you're putting shame to our family, and I'm going to fight for the honor of our family. And the winner becomes head of the family, tribal chief, whatever. So that could be a blockbuster. But just, Richard, I'll throw it out there. Hypothetically, let's say The Rock can't do it, and Roman, goes to the Usos. If this goes for like another month or so, just looking ahead, 2021, who's the next big baby face that can challenge Roman for the Universal Championship and potentially take it off him? I mean, I have one idea, but me personally, I'm thinking Big E. They're shaping him up to be the backup plan.
Yeah, I was trying to think someone outside of that box, but Big E actually makes the most sense.
I think Big E, he's the one that, early prediction, I wonder if he'll be the one to win the Royal Rumble this coming January, I should say.
And plus, Big E will match strength for strength against Roman Reigns.
Absolutely. So. And, he's so over with the fans. And, maybe hypothetically, if he is in the main event, you can have a similar situation that they did with Kofi, and just a big, powerful, happy moment there to wrap up WrestleMania. So that's something we can always talk about more about down the road. But yeah, like this match, if they had the same spots, but sped up in between and cut it down to like 20 minutes, it would have been much more effective. But even the way, the way he even said, "I quit," I just felt it was kind of, I don't know, like he was like, "I quit," but it wasn't like loud enough. I don't know if it wasn't mic'd properly. I guess I'm thinking of like, back in the day, John Cena, who's like the king of "I quit" matches. He had like, what was it, Batista, JBL, all screaming, "I quit." I don't know. I felt like it wasn't mic'd up as well.
Same goes for Tully Blanchard when he said "I quit" to Magnum TA.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's just that's nitpicking. I know it's the Thunderdome, but that's my big thing. Was like, I think this match could have easily just been as effective without the Hell in a Cell, because they used the Hell in a Cell setting to their advantage. I really thought. They're using the strap in the ring and not usually using much of the Hell in a Cell cage itself. I thought it was kind of cool. Roman with like his golden glove on. It kind of looked like Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. So I don't know if that's what he was trying to symbolize there. But nonetheless, I obviously will tune in SmackDown so we can kind of see the fallout from that pay-per-view. And what's next for the Usos? Do they fall in line, or do they try to challenge him one more time for a match of some sort? So that's going to be yet to be determined. But let's see. Next up, it was a match that was kind of announced last minute this past Monday. Elias taking on Jeff Hardy. Elias, coming up. Actually, real quick, Richard, so what'd you think of Elias's concert performance on Raw this week?
I was amused by it. I thought Raw was highly entertaining this week.
Really? You thought so?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought I kind of enjoyed Elias's performance as well. Tommy, I don't know what you thought of his Rock performance.
Oh, I don't know.
It was, to me, it very much looked. It was all like lip syncing.
Oh yeah, but it had that Jeff Jarrett with My Baby Tonight vibe.
Yeah,
it was pretty. The band and everything looks super legit. So he just looks so out of place because he's so big.
Yeah,
like you see these real musicians, and these, they're all kind of average size, and then you have this big bulked up guy doing his shtick. So
I kind of enjoyed it. It was a good old rocking song, and
you're gonna buy that CD, right?
I'll check it out on Spotify. I'll stream it. I'll give him some streams that way.
You're gonna buy it though, right?
Is it, if it's on iTunes? I might check it out.
I told him I could get him on the podcast.
I would love to talk to
Really?
Elias.
You got connections?
Yeah, I got connections.
Dude, I wonder if we could book Elias through the record label. like
Oh my God.
Actually, I probably WWE is going to put it out, the music. It comes out tomorrow on Monday, so I'm sure he'll be on Monday Night Raw promoting it again, reminding everyone. But I enjoyed the performance because it was really emphasizing the entertainment of WWE. Kind of had like the 80s vibe, the rock and roll,
the rock and wrestling connection.
Yeah, that's what kind of I took it as, that performance. But so Jeff Hardy attacked him with the guitar. He was like shredding on the guitar in Raw, and then which led to this match. So the match itself was okay to me. A little bit of a downer as far as the finish goes. Like Jeff just grabbed his acoustic guitar and hit Elias with it. So Elias won by DQ. So obviously this match is far from over, this rivalry. So I'm sure it's going to continue on Raw, and it's going to be dragged out for the next couple weeks. And I don't know, like Richard, what about you? Do you like Elias? His whole thing is he's mad at Jeff Hardy thinking he ran him over, but I think we all know it was Sheamus who set him up. So why is Elias?
Have you seen the Raw? Have you seen the Raw footage?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I know people were complaining or saying, well, technically we never saw like actual evidence. It was just Sheamus, or we saw people, it was eyewitnesses saying we saw someone with the red hair. That's all they said. So we never saw officially any like footage or anything like that. So that'd be interesting. See how that plays out.
I bet it was Ember Moon.
She had the red hair coming out.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. And she took off on her motorcycle to go to NXT right after. but nonetheless, like I said, I mean, the reports are saying that Elias, now that he's back, he's going to get a big push as a heel. So that's why I had a feeling that he was going to win here, just to kind of really solidify that he's the new heel for Monday Night Raw. Next up was the big Money in the Bank match for the briefcase between Otis taking on The Miz. The winner gets the Money in the Bank briefcase. And so before we get into that, so on SmackDown, we saw our own version of Law and Otis, a.k.a. Wrestler's Court, on SmackDown. Long story short, we saw Otis taking on The Miz.
It was brilliant.
It was
absolutely
so good.
Brilliant.
JBL was the judge. Ron Simmons was
the bailiff.
Right. And we saw Teddy Long as the typer guy, the typewriter person. And so we had all these witnesses: Ray, Asuka, Morrison, Tucky, all defending, giving their eyewitness accounts. We saw, it was pretty much just, a basic court case of why, Miz should get the briefcase and Otis is a bad representation to hold it. It was very funny. And so I thought it was kind of, it was, I don't know about you, Richard, but like watching that reminded me of like those funny skits we used to see in WWE in like in late 80s and early 90s, like those fun backstage type segments, the entertainment part of it all.
Yeah, it had Bruce Pritchard's fingerprints written all over it. It was absolutely tremendous.
He definitely came from that era, so
he produced all of those segments back in the day that we used to love. So
yeah, and so that was awesome. Ultimately, we saw The Miz bribe JBL with a briefcase full of money, and which led to this match. So JBL says Otis got to defend, or you got to take on The Miz, and the winner gets the briefcase. So jump into the match itself. Decent match, very similar to what we've been seeing between the two of them on SmackDown before the draft. But yeah,
this whole thing was one of the better done things on this show, I thought.
As far as what the build up or what happened after or at the end of the match, or
I thought the body of the match was good. The end of the match was great because I don't think anyone saw that coming. And then the brawl after that was great too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So, unfortunately, Miz defeated Otis when Otis was going through the ropes, and Tucky had the briefcase in his hand.
I'm calling him Tucky.
Tucker. Well,
you're terrible.
What? Tucky is his name? His nickname?
Oh my God.
Tucker. He had the briefcase and he hit Otis with it. A total shocker. He turned on his best friend, and then Otis fell back, and the Miz was able to roll him up and get the victory. And he's now the new owner, and he's now Mr. Money in the Bank. So a lot to unpack here. So they go in the back, they're doing an interview. So a couple things, Richard. So yeah, just thoughts on the Miz as the new Money in the Bank winner or holder of the briefcase, and thoughts on Tucker's promo explaining his actions and where's this going to lead for him. So start with the Miz.
I think it works itself out pretty good, because if you look at who is in the championship contender spots right now, there's not a chance that a guy his size is going to sneak up on anyone unless they're like completely laid out.
Who, Otis?
No, I mean the champion. Like, so if Otis comes out,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to know it. Like one way or another, they're going to, he's not going to be able to run to the ring and get in there before they notice.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Miz is someone that can sneak in at any moment and you'll never know it, which is the point in the Money in the Bank, is that you can cash it in whenever you want, unless you challenge someone.
Yeah.
And I don't see Otis challenging Roman Reigns. I don't see Otis challenging Randy Orton or Drew McIntyre. So it's kind of like, if you're not going to be sneaky about it, then don't have it on them.
Yeah, so that goes back to just, I think, the whole situation here of just having Otis as the champion in the first place. So, when he won it back in, what was it, May, I think a lot of people were questioning, okay, obviously Vince likes Otis and thinks he's a funny character and rewarded him with this Money in the Bank briefcase, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like a reliable threat to take out whoever the champion is. Going back, when he won it, Braun was the champion. Now Roman's Universal Champion. Drew has been champion up until this point. So Otis does not seem like a legit threat to cash in and defeat one of them. So a lot of people were scratching their heads. It's like, why give it to him in the first place? And there was a lot of speculations the last few weeks of how are they going to try to get it off him, and how can you do it in a way that makes him still look strong, but doesn't look like a complete douche for losing it. So this was, I think, a pretty good way of getting it off him. As far as it's sad, obviously his best friend turned on him. And it's going to be interesting moving forward how they're going to take on each other, because Tucker is now on Raw and Otis is still on SmackDown. And now Tucker on Raw, I wonder, will he align himself with Miz and Morrison, who are also on Raw? So maybe Miz has a new little faction going. Miz does like having people around him, going back to Bo Dallas and
Curtis Axel.
Yeah, Curtis Axel.
And even before that, Damian Sandow.
Yeah, so
Miztourage.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's a new updated version of the Miztourage. I don't know. I'm just, looking ahead, trying to guess what's going to happen. But it's just still a little interesting, though. Tucker, I mean, so for Miz, he's definitely more, I think, a legit threat, as you said. I mean, the Money in the Bank briefcase is always better on a heel, because they can be like the Chicken S type of heel where they can run in, as Richards, you said, sneak in and try to get a quick victory over someone, take the title off them. So that always makes for an interesting story. And Miz, Miz, the last time he won it was 10 years ago. So it's amazing that 10 years later, he still does great work in the ring and out of the ring, and his promo work, that he still makes for a great candidate for the briefcase. But what I'm getting at is, for him, he is, I think, a little more believable now that he's on Raw. He could probably, he did say in this promo, both championships on both brands would look out for. So I wonder if he still has eyes, maybe go back on SmackDown, try to cash it in, or I think his better chances are staying on Raw. And keep in mind, when he cashed in 10 years ago, it was against Randy Orton. So that could be very interesting if he tries to cash in on Randy Orton again this time around. So, Richard, just looking ahead short term. So obviously it looks like Otis and Tucker are going to have a little program set up now. Even when that wraps up, I mean, where do they go after this, though? That's why I'm kind of a little bit bummed that they broke them up, because after this rivalry, unless Tucker aligns himself with The Miz, and maybe The Miz can help elevate him to a larger status, and then even Otis, now he's really by himself on SmackDown. I'm just concerned that both of them, after this program ends for them, they're going to be kind of left stranded in the mid-card scene somewhere.
It could also just mean a complete reboot, that they're erasing this friendship of Otis and Tucker. And maybe the only time we see Otis and Tucker come to blows in the near future is the Royal Rumble. But it might just be, this is us washing our hands of that and we're moving forward. Much like recently when we had Bronson Reed on a losing streak every week, and then all of a sudden he's winning matches and he's featured on NXT. So this could just be the restart button on both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's going to be...
And quite frankly, with a Tuck E, I feel like this is needed for him, because he lacks the same personality that Otis does, and it's hard to even come close to that because he's so boisterous. So Having him go a completely different route and not have you be reminded of Heavy Machinery, I think, is really smart.
Yeah, this could be a really great thing for him as far as giving him a little bit of a solo push as a heel, a bit, and he's a big dude, so he could be a big bad heel and really maybe tear up on the mid card scene and see what it folds. And it'd be interesting if he does continue to align himself with Miz and Morrison, or he just goes off on his own path. It's going to be interesting and all that, but nonetheless, I think this is probably the best or one of the easiest ways to get the briefcase off Otis. Let Otis do his own thing now on SmackDown. Keep building him up as a separate entity, and then Miz and Morrison, they can have more fun with the briefcase, and he's definitely a more legit threat to whoever the champion is, and they can have more. I think there could be some fun opportunities there with him and Randy Orton down the road. And
pair Otis up with Chad Gable.
With who?
Chad Gable.
Who, Otis?
Yeah, Otis.
Why?
Well, I don't think they want to pair him up with anyone. I think that's
kind
of the point right now is to split them up.
Yeah, they want to give him a singles push. That's a whole other thing. Chad Gable. We can talk about that another time. So next up was Sasha Banks. What's that?
You mean Shorty G?
Exactly.
You're right.
We'll save that for maybe next episode. That's an interesting development there. But next up was the women's match of the night. Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Sasha Banks inside Hell in a Cell. Richard, I mean, you call it match of the night. Am I right?
Match of the night, match of the week, match of the month. Once again.
Yeah,
the WWE's women's division is the best wrestling you will find anywhere for the last 4, 5, 6 years. So
yeah. So here we are. Sasha Banks, Bayley come out. This is the match we've been waiting for on SmackDown this week. Bayley finally signed the contract after Sasha Banks put her in the bank statement inside the chair and had her reluctantly sign the contract. That was an awesome move. And this match here, Bayley comes out all dressed in black, Sasha all dressed in white, and then Bayley comes out with also her chair that she used to beat up Sasha recently. And one little thing that was interesting, so she comes out, but Sasha kicks the chair. It goes out of the Hell in the Cell cage, and she's like, "Oh my God, no! I need the chair!" But there are other chairs in the ring still, so it's like. I don't know if she's just so attached to that one chair. It's like a security blanket, but it's like there's probably other chairs under the ring you can use. But
she wanted that chair, Danny.
I know that one. She took the time to spray paint 1-0.
Yeah, it's her good luck charm.
Yeah, good luck charm, absolutely. So, but man, like so much to talk about as far as just all the number of great spots in this match. So what Roman and Jay did not use the cage, these two ladies just used every aspect of it.
This was storytelling at its best.
Yeah, I mean, it was spot after spot. It was creative ways of using the tables, the table, the ladder. I'm sorry, chairs, the kendo sticks. I mean, God, they said kendo sticks. It was just creative how they put it. Inside the chain link fence. And also into the steps, and Sasha fell through it, tripped and fell through it. It was just, God, it was just so creative. These little detail spots that it was just such an awesome match. I mean, kudos to both of them as far as not taking a lot of downtime. They were going from spot after spot and just really sacrificed their bodies for our entertainment. And man, I mean, Rich, I don't know, this might be a little bit biased because it's fresh in our heads, but how does this compare to maybe their takeover match from years ago?
I think this was more violent.
Yeah.
And I think that what they did at the end of this match was a mirror image of what they did at the end of that one as well with because during the takeover match, Sasha was repeatedly stepping on Bayley's hand because she had injured her hand before. So they're telling that story that Bayley was injured. It was Sasha's fault. And this one, she's got the chair around her neck and then just stomping it repeatedly. I thought that this is an example of what every match should strive to be, whether it's a 5-minute match or a 30-minute match, is there's cooperation in wrestling. You know someone's going to hit a move, whatever. But like often, this is every company you watch now is that you'll see them do that, like stop, wait, catch the person thing, and you're waiting forever. And with this one, it was just, we're going to go for it and apologize later, which is the way it should be. So I really dug the pace, in the violence of this, because like there's no blood in this, and it's still violent as all hell. And they didn't waste any time. They maximized their minutes, and they got a lot of time in this. So excellent match. Yeah,
it was almost 27 minutes long. But I mean, God, like Bayley took those bumps into the side of the cage.
She was taking those, and Sasha kept getting power bombed into the cage and chairs, and that it was a catapult into the two kendo sticks. That was kind of like, that looked mean.
Yeah, and just even but just at the very end, as far as Sasha Banks using the chair, the bank statement with the chair into Bayley. I mean, there was a couple of false finishes as far as they had the ladder in the ring across the two chairs, and it looked like Sasha was going to try to lay Bayley out, but they missed. And then Sasha did the Bayley move, and but Bayley kicked out. And then so they're like, it was almost like a last resort. Like they've given each other all they can give. They're each other's finishers and whatnot. And so finally, Sasha Banks with the bank statement using the chair, and just Bayley just finally gave up. And I was just like, wow. I mean, that was awesome storytelling. Using like 27 minutes went by really fast in that situation because it was spot after spot. But also, listen, there was a lot of people online kind of complaining that this should have main evented, and I could see why these girls.
You can say that all day. Yeah. I always see that, with any show that we watch with other people, not saying us.
Yeah.
However, you see that all the time, but you don't know what the match is going to be till it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
This stuff is scripted, but at the same time, they're not scripting it move for move. Like they go over some spots. All the production people know is if they're going to do something dangerous to get it approved, and then they give them a time. So they just use their minutes better than Roman and Jay, and they use their minutes better than Drew and Randy. That's all.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, you can't predict how these matches are going to turn out to a certain extent.
It's live pay-per-view.
Exactly. And the other thing too, like, listen, like I was very happy to see the WWE Championship main event the show. Because for how many years back in 2016, 2017, there were so many pay-per-views in a row where WWE champion, like for example, when AJ Styles had it, it was always like halfway during the show or like third to last match of the night. It was always Universal title ending the show.
Sometimes they do that though, however, because they know that the match is going to go longer and they don't want the show to go off the air. Like, what was that? All in or all out, whatever. The one with the
All In,
the Young Bucks. Yeah. At the end of that, where they just got screwed on time.
Yeah.
So that's why you hardly ever see Cody in a main event and he's in the mid show.
He needs his time to shine.
Yes, he does. so and you haven't seen the Young Bucks in a main event since then, have you?
No, I mean, it'd be interesting if they main event the next show or not, but that's a whole nother story. But no, I get what you're saying. So for me though, like I said, it was just very nice.
Well, and look at it this way though too. I'm totally with you, and I understand what you're saying. But when we didn't have that before, we had Brock Lesnar as champion forever, and Brock could go on last because he could just squash them, or it wasn't going to be more than 15 minutes.
Exactly,
and it shouldn't have been. It does its job.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing was for like I said, for me, I was just excited just to see the WWE Championship main event this show last. And then for Sasha and Bayley, I think for them, if anything, their placement was fine because it's like, go ahead and try to follow us after that. I mean, if anything, they set the bar, and for everyone else that followed afterwards, it was a matter of can they pull it off or not. It's the same type of match. So
they did things in this match that because I was pretty confident that last year's women's Hell in a Cell was the better of the two. And this one I can say with ease that this was the best of the three now.
Okay, so the first one was Charlotte and Sasha, then Becky and Sasha, and now Bayley and Sasha. So Sasha, she's taking on the other members of the Four Horsewomen. And I think every time there's been a women's match in Hell in a Cell, there's been a title change. So little fact there, I heard or I saw online or something like that. So
Becky retained last year.
Did she retain? Okay, I'm trying to remember.
Someone lied to you. Don't listen to him.
In fact,
it's probably Meltzer.
What can I say?
If it was in the Tokyo Dome, Sasha would have won last year.
I mean, she's a Vince guy. What can I say?
Happy birthday, Dave Meltzer! Right? It was his birthday yesterday. So anyway,
just another year closer to his death.
You sound like Brian Alvarez now. No, I'm kidding. So, so next up, a match that was announced very last minute. It was Bobby Lashley from the Hurt Business defending his United States Championship against a member of Retribution. So, if I remember correctly, was this on the kickoff show or at the beginning of the pay-per-view itself? I can't remember now, but Richard, kind of like what you said, this was something that kind of took place, right before the if I remember, if it was kickoff or early in the show, and it led to a match later in the night. So kind of, it's a good point, like Attitude Era, as far as like, something on Sunday Night Heat or something that some little dramatic event happened at the beginning of the pay-per-view. And then a couple hours later, it played out into a match. So we saw Mustafa Ali in Retribution cut a promo, and he pretty much challenged the Hurt Business. Like, you pick someone, and then you pick someone from our group for a match later on the night. So, Retribution, so MVP said he'll pick Bobby Lashley to defend the title, and then they picked Slapjack. And they made fun. Slapnuts. She's very fitting with Jeff Jarrett in attendance. But I like it was a Shelton Benjamin says, pick Slapjack. He has that stupid mask or terrible mask, so pick him. Before we get into the match real quick, so the big thing on Raw this week was Mustafa Ali finally, because the week before on the draft, he didn't have a chance to, his segment, I guess, got cut, but he was supposed to explain his actions and why he had or created Retribution. I just want to real quick get your thoughts on his promo this past week on Raw, where he kind of explained just Retribution and also admitted that he was the hacker on SmackDown earlier this year. So just a real quick, your thoughts on that.
I thought it was a good promo. I still am not convinced 100% that he's the leader.
Really? That's an interesting thought. You're like the one person that I know that thinks that there's still like a higher power involved.
I think it could be Bray now.
Bray Wyatt?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's the thing. So real quick, I was going to say it's been a tough week for Retribution. So on Raw,
and what happened on Raw with Bray and Retribution was not winning that match when Bray came out.
Yeah.
That could have been his way of kind of taking matters into his own hands and handling his people. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So I was going to say, it was interesting with the Fiend, attacking Retribution, or no, they were going to attack the Fiend and he disappeared, and then they get beat up by Hurt Business. So
here's a layer for you though.
Okay.
Because Bray Wyatt, on paper, you would say, well, what does he need Retribution for, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was Husky Harris. Mm. They made him Husky Harris, and which was a terrible gimmick and a terrible name.
Mm-hmm.
And his friends have been let go since, or turned on him.
Yeah.
And Bray Wyatt's also one of those characters that does better when he's surrounded by people. And when he hasn't had people, he's had puppets. And he got that over. So if he comes out as the leader of Retribution at some point with Alexa Bliss there, like, it all kind of makes sense, especially why these guys are now wearing masks. Like, we all know who they are.
Yeah.
He just gave them different names and molded them into his own creation.
That could be an interesting take if that happens. And it's for WWE, I know they're trying to connect the dots on a lot of different storylines with Retribution. So that could be an interesting storyline that they can, if they want to pull it off. But
My only fear with it, like, is that WWE hasn't done factions with more than 4 people in so long.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be that. So, but it could be. It could just be someone that's in creative saying, "Hey, it doesn't matter. Let's just do it anyway."
I'm just concerned for Retribution. Like, okay, so Mustafa Ali cuts a great promo, kind of explaining himself, even though it was kind of just thrown out there. Oh yeah, by the way, I was the hacker. He just threw it out there. I kind of hope there was like a bigger reveal for that at some capacity. But nonetheless, we see them lose the Hurt Business and get beat up by The Fiend this week. And then on Hell in a Cell, the actual pay-per-view, Slapjack loses to Bobby Lashley in a pretty quick match, less than 4 minutes. So I'm just saying, I'm worried that Retribution, even though Mustafa Ali's cutting these great promos, explaining himself and his actions, that the faction itself is not going to get over or going to become a threat.
Yeah.
At least just
which again is why I don't believe Mustafa Ali is the leader.
Yeah,
they wouldn't be doing this to them if he was.
Yeah, so that's something. I mean, hopefully we'll find out more on Raw. Maybe there's a follow up to this, but anyway, I just, like I said, just a bad week for Retribution between all this. So not a lot to talk about. Slapjack, I mean, we all know it's Shane Thorne. The match we were texting back and forth. Tommy and I were talking about too. A little sloppy this match. I don't know. I mean, Shane Thorne's a good wrestler, but I wonder if it was a little botchy just because of the mask. Is it hard for him to see in there?
Possibly.
Well, it's probably the mask and the shorts. Like, he's not wrestling in the gear he's used to.
Exactly. So Bobby Lashley won, retains the title. Good for them. And I'm sure this is going to play out on Raw again. So we'll wait in that for that. So last up was the main event. Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against Randy Orton. Third match of the night inside Hell in a Cell. Richard, you kind of touched on this already, but just, if you want to expand a little bit more on your thoughts on this match and how it played out.
It just, it was boring. Let's be honest. Like, it was, this is the worst of the 3 matches that they've had in the last couple months.
Yeah.
It was really slow. Yeah. I don't care for these any kind of stipulated match unless there's some sort of blood. And if we're not going to see blood, then don't do the match. Like a cage match should be violent. And like, we didn't get blood with Becky and Sasha, but we got a violent match. This was not violence.
That's the thing.
This was a lot of slow plotting, nothingness.
Yeah.
Like the guy's laying down. Why aren't you kicking him or trying to pin him? Like, you're just standing there wondering what to do next. That's what it looked like.
And that's obviously like the MO, I think, of Randy Orton's style as of late in the last couple of years. Like, he tries to be this slow, methodic character where he's like, he'll lay a move on you and then he'll slowly crawl up and get another move on you. So
which is it's fine, slow. But it's not the right place for a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's he's had better Hell in a Cell matches.
Exactly. Like,
but there's a time and a place to be slow and plotting, because Randy Orton's proved that this year. He's had 2 stinker matches. That WrestleMania match was not that great. And,
with Edge. Yeah.
Yeah. But everything else he's done has been pretty much gold. Like, that last pay-per-view was kind of but it had its place.
Well, I was just gonna say, because like even WWE tweeted out like their top 5 Hell in a Cell matches. So number 5 was Usos versus the New Day. Number 4 was
I just don't think this would have. It didn't deserve a Hell in a Cell match if that's what they did with it. Like.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like Triple H, Cactus Jack. I mean, that was a great Hell in a Cell from 20 years ago. The blood, obviously Shawn Michaels.
Even the Undertaker and Big Boss Man from WrestleMania 15 was more entertaining than this one. This one had too much time. They climbed up on top for no reason. Like, I don't think that's needed when there's no crowd.
Yeah, that's the thing. And
it's the same spot falling through the table that they've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, Shane, Kevin Owens did that a few years ago. I mean, yeah, it's predictable.
Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins.
Yeah, so they start on one side. They cut, he bolt cuts, Randy Orton bolt cuts the door, goes climbing up. I mean, it's like, part of me is like, why do you go up there? Like, what's the strategy? Is ultimately to convince the other person, your opponent, to follow you, and the goal is to eventually push them off on the other side. That's all it is. It's like they call.
Yeah, and the 2 times, the first 2 Hell in a Cells, Shawn Michaels does it because he's trying to get away. and doesn't think that the Undertaker's going to follow him or know where he went.
Yeah.
And then when Mick Foley does it, he starts the match that way because he's fucking crazy Mick Foley. And not only does he make his way into the cage, but he goes through the cage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I know. It's just like if there's, I would prefer them to put up a parental advisory and remind parents like, hey, this match is going to be pretty violent. You might not want to let your kids watch it. Like I think people would respect that.
Well, the thing also is like, yeah, it's predictable. Like okay,
you can have this same match, the exact same match we watched, and if you added the blood, it would be more exciting. Like all that slow plotting is just letting the blood leak. So,
well, like I said, it's so predictable. It's like, okay, one's escaping, going to climb up, the other one's going to follow them. They're going to battle out on top, and then they're going to crawl down the other side, and then one's going to fall through the table. It's the same predictable spot. And so it's frustrating. I think also keep in mind, like, if this plays a factor at all, listen, Randy and Drew are both very tall, big guys. So they're not known for their high flying spots per se inside. I don't think they can do much in Hell in a Cell. Tommy, like you and I, we saw the one where Drew flipped, I think, Randy into the table. And I was like, oh, that's great. Like, boom, big power spot. It's going to get some momentum going now. No, and then it slowly dies down again. So I'm like, it's like this stop and go. And so that's what gets kind of frustrating for me is like you're watching this match and you're waiting for it to get to the next gear and pick things up. But same thing, this was over 30 minutes and this, like if they cut out 10 minutes and went from spot to spot, the power moves one after the other a little more quicker. Yeah, it would have been a much more effective match. Like Richard, you brought up a good point. I'm sure maybe someone online can cut it up and cut out some of the dead air in between the spots and speed it up a little bit. And it'll look amazing, like an amazing matchup here.
Or someone, if you've got the technology, superimpose blood.
Yeah, it was just rain blood all over them. But nonetheless, so they get back into the ring. Drew McIntyre, Randy's been working on his leg, the leg that he does the Claymore on. So Drew goes for the Claymore, Randy ducks, and as Drew gets up, Randy lays RKO on him and pins him and gets the win. And very similar because so at SummerSlam, if I remember correctly, Drew went for the Claymore, Randy ducked, but then that's when Drew countered him with the roll up. So this time around, Randy was able to get the upper hand and lay out the RKO. So Randy Orton is your new WWE champion. Finally, this was, part of me is like, I'm excited and I'm happy for him because this has been one of his best years in a long time as far as one of the better heels. But I don't know. I kind of feel like it should have maybe happened at SummerSlam instead of now. Cause I feel like it took a long time to get to this point.
I tend to disagree with you because I think Drew beating Randy the last 2 months prior to this really makes Drew McIntyre a made guy.
Yeah.
Where like had you taken it off at SummerSlam, it's not much different than the Kofi Brock thing. So
okay.
Well, I mean it's different in terms of time given. I get that, but like Drew McIntyre is a made champion now.
See, that's the thing. That's why I kind of was hoping Drew was going to win here to really solidify his place as one of the elite champions.
I think he is. I think because we've talked about that the last 2 months that he's
I love it. Yeah.
Himself because he beat him. Randy's beaten him once. He's beaten Randy twice. Is the way I see it. So
yeah. So it's interesting though because Randy now is champion. Like, what's going to be next? I wonder, will the Miz? I wonder if they put the title on Randy and the Miz with the Money in the Bank briefcase for something for. That could be a new story to build into maybe for the rest of the year.
Well, I think Edge is coming back sooner than later.
And so maybe that's the thing. I think we talked about this before. Maybe Randy and Edge can wrestle at WrestleMania for the championship, and then Edge wins it there and becomes WWE champion for the first time in how many, it was 10 years. So maybe that's the story long-term that they're looking for. I feel bad for kind of Drew because I was like, okay, where's Drew go now? Like what's next for him? What's where can he go from here? Because I definitely think he belongs in the championship title scene. But
I wouldn't be surprised if Drew gets a rematch with Randy, and Randy's about to win it, and Edge costs Randy the match, and Drew gets it back.
Or maybe they try to redo the heist with like Seth Rollins. Like maybe Randy and Drew go at it, and then Miz comes running in and sneaks out the victory there.
Well, and there's no saying that Miz keeps the briefcase. So
they're gonna play hot potato.
Exactly, and Morrison gets it or something. So
it's like you get a briefcase, you get a briefcase. So it's gonna bounce around. So it's gonna be interesting going forward. So if anything with this pay-per-view, regardless of 1 out of 3 Hell in a Cell matches was really good, it still gives us plenty of reason to tune in this week to Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, and if any of you are listening that didn't watch or haven't watched yet, watch Bayley and Sasha and go out of your way for it, because the rest of the show was worth it for that.
Exactly. So it was a lot of fun. So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it was still, it's Hell in a Cell. I still on the fence about Hell in a Cell itself being its own pay-per-view and trying
just let the women do Hell in a Cell matches.
I know they're the only two. Yeah, do a badass job in there. I still kind of wish Hell in a Cell was just still a stipulation, and therefore can be used at any pay-per-view throughout the year when it calls for a rivalry to wrap things up. So, like it made sense for Randy and Drew because it was the third match. It was the third match,
the grudge match.
Yeah, the grudge match between the three of them to wrap up their rivalry. So I don't know. It's like that and Elimination Chamber. I still on the fence about those being dedicated pay-per-views named after the stipulation. I think they're better off when they're used when the time is needed for them. So
I 100% agree. I think TLC is the only one that really fits that.
Yeah, because they literally can build up a bunch of matches. One could be tables, one could be ladders, one could be chairs, it could be all three. And that's the spectacle throughout the whole pay-per-view for that. That's a little bit different. Yeah, that's a good point. So
I'm with you. I do like it when someone comes out and, like they do on NXT with War Games, where you've got an authority figure that comes out and just kind of yells that this can't be settled in an ordinary match. This needs to be Hell in a Cell. Instead, Hell in a Cell's coming up, so they're just going to announce who's going to be in it. It takes away some of the anticipation.
Exactly, because we knew, all right, it's on the cards. Hell in a Cell is coming in October, and it's like, okay, so which rivalries that they currently have going on is going to eventually end up there. So it becomes a little predictable in that sense. Hell in a Cell is becoming like their Halloween type of pay-per-view, scary, demons, devils, and fire type of thing. But I kind of wish WWE would just use Halloween Havoc as a pay-per-view and maybe have Hell in a Cell match on Halloween Havoc. I think that would be kind of cool fusion, but we're going to get that with NXT. So, listen, I know we're running long here. So I think let's go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I know there's a lot to talk about with NXT going on. A big reveal this week on NXT. Some fun stuff on NXT UK. Richard, if it's cool, I think maybe we could touch on all that stuff next episode. Is that good for you?
Let's just cover the Pat McAfee bit.
Okay, cool. All right. If you got the time for it, I'm totally down for that. Okay. So NXT this week, a lot of good stuff happened there. It's definitely the build up for Halloween Havoc, which is coming up, this coming Wednesday. A lot of fun. I can't wait for Halloween Havoc. So the big thing was, we saw Undisputed Era. They were going to take on, Tyler Breeze and Fandango for the NXT Tag Championships in the main event. But we saw, Bobby Fish get taken out. And then later on the night, we saw Roderick Strong get taken out. When Bobby Fish got taken out, Regal asked Kyle O'Reilly to take his spot. He's like, yeah, I'm clear. I'll do it. So we're going to get Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong versus the tag champs. All of a sudden, we see Roderick Strong get taken out. And Kyle O'Reilly's like, well, I can't do this by myself. And, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch were there. And they're like, we'll take one of us. He's like, I can't. And he walked off. And then William Regal just told Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, you guys take on Fandango and Tyler Breeze in the main event. So we got the tag match, and we see a hooded person with a mask, silver mask, come out and push off Fandango off the top of the rope, and Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan were able to defeat Breezango and become new NXT Tag Team Champions. And this masked person comes into the ring, takes off the hood, takes off the mask, and reveals it's Pat McAfee. So, wow.
Which makes sense as to why Ridge Holland took out Adam Cole.
Exactly. So,
and Ridge Holland said that he had the money to get that car.
Exactly. And Pat McAfee a couple months ago said he's like a millionaire. He makes a lot of money, has a lot of jobs. And so that makes sense, to easily afford, buy a car for Ridge Holland to do his dirty work, take out Adam Cole. And
plus Ridge Holland looks like he could be Pat McAfee's older, bigger brother.
Yeah. So, so Richard just, I was thoroughly shocked. Like, I think a lot of people just thought Pat McAfee was one and done, had his one match at TakeOver against Adam Cole. Boom, he's back to doing his normal thing, his radio show, maybe occasionally make an appearance on NXT Kickoff show. But okay, this program's far from over. Pat McAfee is very much still in the mix with NXT and still got some beef with Undisputed Era. So what do you think about all that?
I think it's great because, we've been asking the last couple of weeks, are they going to split up the Undisputed Era? What's going to happen here? It's now revealed who's been taking them out, and you also finally crowned Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, because they've been a tag team there for 4 years, solid, and they've always been a good tag team.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think Breezango is pretty established as to who they are.
Yeah.
So it's great because Pat McAfee's a damn good heel.
Yeah, I agree. It's great because now, for one, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, they do have some beef with Undisputed Era. So I wonder if they're going to represent kind of the new hired guns for Pat McAfee.
And if somehow we get we probably will get a War Games. Because that's the next takeover.
Okay.
Then we would get Pat McAfee, Burch, and Lorcan with one other guy. Who could that be? Against the Undisputed Era, and the Undisputed Era would be going into that match as a babyface for once.
Okay,
that'll work.
I'm sure the plan was maybe Ridge Holland to be that fourth person. Unfortunately, now that he's hurt.
Well, who do you think is going to be the person now?
Okay, so Pat McAfee has the money to probably buy a fourth person.
You know who I pick?
Who?
Ciampa.
I don't think he.
He's kind of floating around. He doesn't have anything going on. I mean, he kind of got involved with Kushida and Velveteen Dream. Richard, did you have someone in mind that you were thinking?
No. Okay. That's what I was asking.
We could put it out to the Kliqsters. Please let us know if you have any ideas of who could be the fourth person for Team Pat McAfee for War Games. But I was shocked. I mean, for one, all seriousness, very happy for Burch and Lorcan become tag champions.
And Burch won with a low blow.
Yeah, so he got a little dirty. So I guess, are they heels now? Because, he used the low blow to get the victory, and then he used it on Tyler Breeze. And then, but they've had history with Undisputed Era. They had a great takeover match a couple years ago. So it kind of makes sense that, they align themselves with someone else who does not like Undisputed Era. So I'm excited for all this. It's great. It's a little bit of shocker because Burch and Lorcan, been baby faces, but they are turning now. But it makes sense. Like, you connect the dots. And it's like Pat McAfee is a millionaire who can afford to pay off these guys to work for him and taking out Undisputed Era. So do you think Pat McAfee was the one taking out Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong earlier in the night? Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So yeah, it's very interesting. I'm excited, and it's almost like it was like the last person you could think of, and now at the end of a mystery, you connect all the dots. Like, oh my god, that totally makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and because he's not regular, it doesn't come across that way. It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed it. We were trying to figure it out last week or the week after the takeover event, and it was just like, oh my God.
Total sense there. So
total sense.
I'm excited. I think Pat McAfee, he might not be like the biggest name outside of pro wrestling as far as celebrity goes, involvement with WWE, but he does have his connections with them over the last couple of years working with NXT. He does have his own radio show and, former NFL player. So, and he did, I think, blew a lot of people's minds away as far as how good he was in the ring a couple months ago, taking on Adam Cole at that takeover. So, I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see what else he can do kind of as a sequel to his previous match and what's next for him. So I'm sure NXT, there's going to be some fun stuff with him. So looking forward to all that. So, but yeah, I was definitely surprised. Like, wow, it's the last person I would think, Pat McAfee, but it's all good. So, yeah, another fun week of pro wrestling in the books. If you haven't had a chance, go check out NXT UK. A lot of fun stuff there. We'll probably touch on that more next week. But of course, seeing Walter do his thing and looking forward to that match next week, defending his title. So a lot of good stuff with WWE this week, I thought. So it's all fun. So on that note, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Richard, where can all the Kliqsters find you online?
You can find me at Pro Wrestling 101 on Instagram.
And Tommy, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IronFist1982.
Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at Baby Huey83, at In The Kliq, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, InTheKliq@gmail.com. So thank you once again for all the support. Please rate, comment, and share the podcast. And on that note, let's go home. And that's the bottom line because Huey said so.